March 1943. Just after dawn. Central Tunisia. The battlefield looks quiet from a distance, but it isn't calm. Smoke drifts low across the broken ground, caught between olive trees and shallow ridges torn open by shell fire. German infantry moves forward cautiously, rifles raised, stepping over churned earth where the fight ended minutes ago. The Americans have withdrawn. Not routed. Not panicked. Just gone. That's the first thing that bothers the officers. There's no sense of collapse. No abandoned wounded screaming for medics. No frantic piles of gear. The withdrawal feels controlled, deliberate. Like the enemy chose when the fight would end. A German lieutenant kneels beside a shallow scrape in the dirt where American soldiers had been firing from. Empty brass litters the ground. Too much brass. He pauses, frowns, and reaches down. The rifle he lifts doesn't look threatening at first. Wood stock, iron sights, no scope, no bayonet fixed. But something is missing. There's no bolt handle protruding from the side. No obvious way to chamber the next round. He turns it over in his hands, feeling the weight. Heavier than a Mauser. Solid. Industrial. Stamped markings catch his eye. U.S. rifle. Caliber .30. M1. Around him, his men are talking quietly now. During the firefight, they couldn't advance. Every time they tried to move, American fire pinned them down again. Not machine guns. Rifles. Too many shots. Too fast. No pauses. The lieutenant pulls the trigger. Nothing. He tugs lightly on a metal rod along the rifle's side. The bolt snaps forward with a sharp, confident sound. He fires once. Then again. Then again. There's no delay. No manual cycling. No break in rhythm. 8 shots come out in a rush that feels wrong. Unfair. He lowers the rifle slowly, the answer settling in his chest. This is why. 4 weeks now, German units across North Africa have been filing reports that don't fully explain themselves. American infantry appearing stronger than expected. Defensive lines holding longer. Counterattacks launched sooner than doctrine would predict. German commanders blamed inexperience at first. New troops. Poor terrain. Bad luck. But the pattern keeps repeating. Captured American rifles are no longer left lying in the sand. They're collected. Tagged. Sent rearward. Not for souvenirs. For study. At a makeshift German ordnance site near Tunis, several officers and weapons specialists gather around a rough wooden table. On it lies the M1 Garand, stripped down to its core components. No one jokes. No one boasts. This isn't about pride anymore. One officer reassembles the rifle carefully. He understands machinery. He understands systems. As he fits the parts together, he sees it clearly now. Gas-operated. Semi-automatic. Self-loading. 8 rounds fed as a unit. He shoulders the rifle and fires into a berm. 8 shots in seconds. The implications are immediate and uncomfortable. German infantry doctrine is built around the machine gun. The MG-34 and MG-42 dominate the battlefield. Riflemen exist to support them, to protect the gun, to carry ammunition, to fire carefully and deliberately. The Americans have done something different. They've turned every rifleman into a source of sustained fire. In close combat, that matters. In broken terrain, it matters even more. When a German squad advances, they expect moments of opportunity. Brief pauses when the enemy cycles bolts, reloads, resets. Those pauses no longer exist. The Garand removes hesitation. A German sergeant watching the test mutters that the rifle sounds like an automatic weapon when fired quickly. He isn't exaggerating. In the chaos of battle, sound is everything. Loudness becomes size. Speed becomes dominance. American units sound bigger than they are. Someone mentions the N-block clip ejecting with a metallic ping. A potential weakness, they say. A sound that could reveal when the rifle is empty. The room goes quiet for a moment. Then an officer shakes his head. In combat, he says, you don't hear that. He's right. Between artillery, shouting, explosions, and fear, no one notices a small metallic sound. And even if they did, the American rifleman is already reloading. Reports arrive from Sicily, then from Italy. The same descriptions appear again and again. German soldiers pinned down by rifle fire alone. Movement halted. Assaults stalled. Men describing a feeling of being constantly under threat, even when the enemy isn't visible. The rifle doesn't just increase firepower. It increases pressure. German riflemen are trained to conserve ammunition, to fire with discipline, to wait for clear targets. American riflemen are trained to keep shooting. That difference changes behavior under stress. It changes how quickly fear sets in. It changes who controls the tempo of a fight. German officers begin adjusting tactics. More spacing. Greater reliance on machine guns. More caution in close terrain. But none of it fully solves the problem. The Americans don't need to wait. They don't need to pause. Their rifles won't let them. By late 1943, the conclusion is no longer debated quietly. It's written plainly in internal assessments. Against American infantry, the German rifleman is not outmatched in skill. He is outmatched in time. And the war is moving closer to Europe itself. July 1943. Sicily, near the Adrano Ridge. The sun is just rising, burning a pale orange across the rocky slopes, but the air is already thick with smoke and dust. German officers crouch behind low stone walls, binoculars trained on the valley below. American infantry is advancing. Not in large waves, not in chaotic lines, but deliberately, steadily, rifle fire constant. Each shot a heartbeat, relentless, methodical. The officers exchange glances. They know this rhythm. They've felt it before. The M1 Garand. Reports from the field arrive as couriers scurry past. Skirmish after skirmish, the Germans are stunned. Their machine guns can't suppress the American advance completely. Riflemen, ordinary Americans with M1s, hold positions that should have been overrun. Defensive strongpoints fall slower than expected. Every report reads the same: enemy fire continuous. American infantry maintains pressure without pause. In the command tent, a captain lifts a recently captured rifle, examines the sights, the gas piston, the rotating bolt. He pulls the trigger in dry fire, imagining what it does in action. 8 shots per clip. Semi-automatic. No pause. He looks at his officers. If every soldier here had this... He doesn't finish the sentence. Everyone knows. The implications are dangerous. Outside, the first firefights begin in earnest. American squads climb the hills, advancing through olive groves. Each rifleman fires with confidence, taking positions, moving, and still firing. The Germans attempt to fall back into prearranged defensive lines, but the pressure never ceases. They cannot maneuver as freely as doctrine dictates. For the first time in their careers, some officers feel panic creeping in, not because of numbers, but because of tempo. In one exposed ridge, a German lieutenant signals his squad to hold. He shouts orders over the echoing rifle fire, trying to maintain control. But his men hesitate. They see American riflemen appear from nowhere, emerge from cover, and never stop firing. Every time they think the line might break, another burst lands just where it should. Fear spreads faster than bullets. Not because of casualties, yet, but because the rhythm of attack is unrelenting. The rifle doesn't just shoot, it dictates the pace. By mid-morning, the pattern is undeniable. German units pinned behind rocks and walls are forced to adjust. Machine guns are repositioned, flanking maneuvers delayed. Small units sent to assault positions are repelled multiple times before reaching the objective. Officers scribble notes furiously. Doctrine doesn't account for this. They begin to see that fire superiority no longer comes solely from concentrated automatic weapons. It comes from sustained rifle fire, and every American carries it. At a field workshop, weapons engineers dismantle captured M1s for inspection. Every part is scrutinized: the gas cylinder, the end block clip, the locking bolt. The conclusion is unanimous. The rifle was designed not for elegance, not for comfort, but for sustained, unbroken fire. Every rifleman becomes a force multiplier. Every squad can suppress an entire German line for minutes without interruption. The math doesn't lie, and it is terrifying. Some younger officers refuse to accept it. It's just semi-automatic. We have numbers. We have the MG-42. Fire discipline wins. But the veterans shake their heads. They've seen the outcomes firsthand. Entire German platoons stalled, ambushes failing, flanks exposed, all because the Americans refused to pause. Every attempt to outmaneuver them becomes a gamble against constant lead raining down. Tactics must adapt, or soldiers die unnecessarily. Back in the field, the firefight intensifies. The Americans' use of terrain is meticulous. They climb ridges under covering fire from their own riflemen. Germans try to counter with prepared positions, but the M1 allows Americans to shoot and move simultaneously, keeping the pressure constant. What should have been 10 minutes to gain a hill now takes hours, because the attackers never pause. Exhaustion sets in faster than usual, morale frays. One German NCO mutters, "We are shooting at shadows. They are everywhere, and yet nowhere." By noon, the German officers make a decisive choice. They pull artillery forward, try to disrupt the American squads before they reach the ridge. But the Americans have adapted. Riflemen take cover, continue firing, and coordinate with mortars and support weapons. The pace of combat now feels dictated by the M1. The Germans no longer control the tempo. They react to it. The realization dawns slowly. Firepower is no longer a question of numbers or luck. It is built into the rifle. As the sun climbs higher, the ridge finally sees the full intensity of American pressure. Rifle after rifle, squad after squad, push forward in waves that seem unending. German officers shout, signal, reposition, try to organize their squads, but the tempo never lets up. The ridge falls in hours that should have been minutes if traditional doctrine applied. Casualties are mounting. Not from mistakes, not from poor planning, but because the M1 makes every defensive action feel under constant threat. By evening, the Germans have fully internalized what the rifle does. It is more than a weapon. It is a psychological force. Every man facing it understands that hesitation equals death. Retreat is more dangerous than standing. Attack is punished instantly. The ordinary rifleman has become an extraordinary threat simply because he never stops firing. Reports sent back to headquarters are grim. The words are clinical, but the meaning is clear. The M1 Garand has changed the battlefield. Doctrine, training, and assumptions are no longer sufficient. Officers gather again, this time for a debrief. Maps are spread, captured rifles laid out. Notes are exchanged on how to counter, how to survive, how to anticipate this relentless fire. But in the back of every mind, a single thought dominates. The Americans aren't just fighting differently. They're fighting faster, smarter, and without pause. And the rifle ensures they cannot be ignored, underestimated, or defeated by conventional methods alone. For the first time, German officers admit openly that the rifleman himself has become a decisive factor in battle. The M1 Garand does not just shoot bullets. It enforces a tempo. It imposes fear. And it will follow them all the way to Italy. September 1943. The Italian mainland, near Salerno. The beaches are a chaotic storm of sand, blood, and smoke. German officers pace behind reinforced lines, studying maps, counting men, tracking American movements. Reports from the field have been consistent for months now. Wherever American infantry advances with M1 Garands, the rhythm of combat shifts. German platoons fall behind schedule, defensive positions crumble sooner than expected, and every attempt to coordinate assaults feels like trying to hit a ghost. The rifle isn't just a weapon, it's a measure of American intent, a silent command that shapes the battlefield. A colonel kneels beside a captured squad of Americans, recently overrun during a coastal engagement. He inspects their rifles with meticulous care. Each soldier carried 8-round end-block clips, fully loaded, semi-automatic, gas-operated. No pauses. No delays. A single rifleman could sustain fire longer than an entire German squad armed with bolt-action Mausers. He fires a few rounds into the air himself, trying to replicate what he's seen. The recoil is steady, the accuracy reliable, the rate of fire terrifying. "This is not a rifle," he mutters under his breath. "This is an engine of war." Behind him, his officers whisper among themselves. They've tried everything: tighter formations, increased artillery support, flanking maneuvers, coordinated machine gun bursts, but nothing fully mitigates the constant American pressure. Every tactic is countered, every plan disrupted, simply because the Americans don't stop shooting. On the front lines, the battlefield is a blur of movement. American squads move methodically from cover to cover, rifle fire continuous, pinning down entire German sections. Every time a German soldier attempts to rise, aim, or advance, a volley forces him back. Fear sets in, not the sudden panic of artillery shells or machine gun fire, but the creeping, inescapable dread of an enemy who never pauses. One German officer records in his notebook, "We are not facing men, we are facing a system." Each man armed with this rifle imposes a continuous threat. Every hesitation is fatal. He looks up at the ridge. Smoke curls from shattered stone walls. A squad of Americans appears, seemingly from nowhere, rifles in hand. They fire, advance, and fire again. No pause. No hesitation. The officer swallows hard, realizing that the battlefield itself has become a weapon, and it is in the Americans' hands. By mid-afternoon, the Germans have adapted partially, creating defensive pockets, spreading squads farther apart, attempting to lure Americans into kill zones. But the M1 ensures the Americans dictate the pace. Where German doctrine once emphasized deliberate volleys, careful observation, and controlled fire, now every encounter is a race against relentless semi-automatic rhythm. Positions that should have held for hours collapse in minutes. Every hill, ridge, and ruined building feels smaller, more exposed, more deadly. The psychological effect is profound. Junior officers, once confident in their training, begin second-guessing every move. NCOs watch their men hesitate. Even seasoned veterans, hardened by months of combat in Tunisia and Sicily, feel the pressure of constant American fire. Rumors begin to circulate, riflemen moving faster than thought possible, units advancing under impossible odds, men who don't stop shooting even when wounded. The M1 Garand is no longer seen as a tool, it is perceived almost as a force of nature. A particularly harrowing engagement unfolds near a ruined farmhouse outside Salerno. German soldiers attempt to pin down an American squad hiding behind stone walls. Each time they expose themselves, M1 fire cuts them down. The metallic ping of the en-bloc clip ejecting fills the air almost unnoticed under the storm of battle. Men shout. Officers scream orders. But the American tempo is unbroken. Within moments, what should have been a controlled defensive action turns into a rout. Soldiers fall back in disarray, lines break, coordination fails. The rifle has dictated the outcome before the Germans even had a chance to adjust. By evening, the officers convene once more, somber and exhausted. Their reports now carry a tone that had been absent in earlier campaigns: respect, fear, and reluctant admiration. The M1 Garand has rewritten the rules. It has turned ordinary American riflemen into tactical anchors capable of holding ground, forcing retreats, and changing the timing of assaults. And more importantly, it has forced German officers to recognize a truth they cannot ignore. Superior firepower can exist in a single infantryman. The psychological toll is as significant as the physical losses. Men begin overestimating enemy numbers. Units hesitate when they should advance. Positions meant to hold indefinitely crumble within hours. Confidence, once the backbone of German infantry doctrine, begins to erode under the unrelenting rhythm of semi-automatic fire. Each soldier facing the M1 knows the rifle is more than bullets. It is momentum, aggression, and control compressed into a single man. By September's end, after weeks of bitter fighting in Sicily, reports reach Berlin. Analysts and weapons experts study captured Garands. They measure, record, and theorize. The conclusions are inescapable. The rifle is a game changer. Its semi-automatic design has fundamentally shifted the tempo of infantry engagements. German officers begin adapting doctrine, introducing more machine guns per squad, adjusting ranges, spacing formations wider, training men to fire faster, but they cannot erase the months of battlefield lessons learned the hard way. And somewhere in a quiet barracks in northern Italy, a young American soldier cleans his M1 Garand, unaware of the careful scrutiny it has inspired. He thinks only of survival, of covering his squad, of moving forward one step at a time. He doesn't know he is a lesson. He doesn't know he is a nightmare. He is not thinking about psychology, strategy, or doctrine. He is thinking only of what he always thinks: shoot, advance, survive. Yet in that simplicity lies the secret. The German officers have understood the truth now. Against the Americans, every rifleman is an entire battalion's worth of firepower. Every M1 is a force that changes the shape of war. By the time the Americans step onto mainland Italy in full force, the lessons are clear. German troops, officers, and entire divisions have been forced to adapt in real time, often failing, often paying with blood. The M1 Garand did not win battles alone, but it ensured that American infantry could hold, advance, and dominate in a way no bolt-action rifle ever could. By giving each man the tempo of a machine gun and the control of precision, it made every engagement unpredictable, every advance unstoppable, every soldier a linchpin in a larger, unstoppable strategy. History would remember Sicily, Salerno, and Italy not just for bravery, numbers, or tactics, but for the weapon that turned ordinary soldiers into forces that rewrote the rules of combat. The Germans would analyze, theorize, and adapt, but the lesson had been learned in blood and fire. The M1 Garand was not just a rifle. It was a revolution in the hands of every American soldier who carried it into battle.